I stood at my daughter's wedding with a small gift in my hands. She looked at me, eyes cold, and said, "Dad, you're not invited. Go away." The room went quiet. Laughter died. My heart cracked, but my face stayed calm. I had paid for the flowers, the music, the dress, everything. In that moment, I chose silence, and a decision that would turn her perfect day into a lesson she'd never forget. This isn't revenge, it's justice, and it starts now. If you want to hear what happened next, please like, subscribe, and keep watching. When my wife passed away, Anna was only 3 years old. Cancer took her in less than 6 months, and suddenly I was both father and mother to a little girl who still cried every night for her mommy. I remember holding her in my arms, whispering, "Daddy's here, sweetheart. Daddy's not going anywhere." That became my promise, and for the next 25 years I kept it. Every choice I made was shaped by that vow. I worked long hours in construction, often leaving before sunrise and coming home after dark, but I always carved out time for Anna. No matter how tired I was, I'd read her stories at bedtime. She loved Goodnight Moon so much that I practically memorized every page. When she was 5, she'd beg, "One more story, Daddy, please." And I'd give in, even if I had an early meeting. Back then, her green eyes were full of love and trust. As the years passed, my sacrifices grew bigger. When she turned 8, I enrolled her at Riverside Academy, a private school that cost more than half my quarterly profits. Friends told me I was crazy, that a public school education was good enough. But I wanted Anna to have the best. "This is how we invest in her future," I told myself as I signed the tuition checks. Every report card, every school play where she looked into the crowd just to spot me clapping, I believed it was worth it. By the time she was 12, Anna was already surrounded by classmates who lived in mansions, drove luxury cars with chauffeurs, and spent summers in Europe. I couldn't give her all that, but I did my best. Her sweet 16th birthday party was bigger than any event I'd ever attended myself. I rented a hall, hired caterers, and surprised her with a car, a brand new Honda Civic. She hugged me that night and whispered, "Thank you, Daddy." For a moment I thought she truly understood. But entitlement has a way of creeping in quietly. Within 6 months, she complained, "Everyone else got BMWs, Dad. This car is kind of embarrassing." That was the first time I felt the sting of disrespect from the very child I had broken myself to protect. I brushed it off, telling myself it was teenage talk. I worked even harder, saved up, and 2 years later I bought her the BMW she wanted. College was the real test. Northwestern University, her dream school, came with a price tag that almost bankrupted my company's expansion plans. Tuition, room and board, sorority dues, study abroad trips, spring breaks in Cancun and Italy, every semester seemed like another mountain of bills. Each phone call became about money. She'd say, "Dad, I need $3,000 for a business fraternity trip. It's essential for networking." And I'd send it, telling myself it was for her future. But the thank yous became fewer, and the tone became sharper, more transactional. After college, Anna met Ryan. He came from old money. His parents were the kind who wore tailored suits even on weekends and looked down at people who worked with their hands. I'll never forget the first time she introduced me to them. "This is my father. He owns a small construction business." Small business. 25 years of sweat, building Clark Construction from nothing into a 60-employee company that provided good wages for hardworking families, reduced to small business. Ryan's parents smiled politely, but their eyes said everything they didn't consider me good enough for their world. And Anna, my little girl, didn't defend me. In fact, she started asking me to dress differently, to please not wear those work boots when meeting Ryan's friends. That cut deeper than any insult from strangers. The boots that had built her world were suddenly too shameful for her to be seen with. Planning the wedding pushed things even further. Instead of gratitude for my offer to cover expenses, Anna and Ryan presented me with spreadsheets as if I were their banker. Imported orchids, champagne at $300 a bottle, a dress that cost more than most families' yearly rent, every line item was expected. Not once did she say, "Thank you, Dad." Not once did Ryan acknowledge the blood and years behind every dollar. They talked about quality and standards as though I had no role except to foot the bill. What hurt most wasn't just the money. It was the dismissal, the favoritism she now showed toward Ryan's wealthy family. She laughed at his father's jokes, hung on his mother's every word, but when I spoke, she sighed like I was an embarrassment. I had given Anna everything, my time, my savings, my very life, and yet she acted as if her fiancé's family were the ones who truly mattered. There were small moments that should have warned me. Last Christmas, she gave me a sweater while Ryan's father received a Rolex. At Thanksgiving, she seated me at the far end of the table while Ryan's family sat proudly in the center. When I spoke, people nodded politely, but when Ryan's father spoke, Anna's eyes lit up like a child's. She once whispered to me, "Dad, you just don't fit in with these people." Those words echoed in my mind for months. Don't fit in. The man who carried her through nightmares after her mother died, who worked weekends to pay for her braces, who stood in the front row at every school play, now reduced to someone who didn't fit. Still, I kept paying. I told myself, this is her day, not mine. I thought maybe, just maybe, once the wedding was done, she'd remember who stood by her side for 28 years. Maybe she'd look at me and see not just a provider, but a father who loved her more than life itself. But the truth is, favoritism and disrespect had already taken root. Ryan and his family became her world, and I became a relic of her past, useful only for my wallet. The closer we got to the wedding, the more obvious it became. She'd call me Dad when she needed a check signed, but when her friends were around, I was James, as though the title Dad didn't suit the image she wanted to project. By the week of the wedding, I felt like a ghost in her life. And yet I kept silent, because love makes fools of us all. I thought my presence at the ceremony would still mean something. I thought seeing me walk through those doors, gift in hand, would remind her of bedtime stories, school plays, and the father who never left her side. I couldn't have been more wrong. The ballroom doors towered above me, carved wood polished to a glossy shine. For weeks I had rehearsed the moment I would walk through them, imagining Anna's face lighting up, her eyes filling with the same warmth I remembered from childhood. I carried a gift box in my hands, wrapped in silver paper with a ribbon tied carefully by my calloused fingers. Inside was a necklace, a piece I'd chosen with trembling hands, something meant to be passed from father to daughter on her wedding day. But the moment those doors swung open, the dream shattered. The air inside was thick with perfume, orchids, and the distant echo of a string quartet. Every table glowed under crystal chandeliers. Guests turned their heads toward me, their chatter fading into uneasy whispers. Then, in the middle of the room, my daughter, my Anna, froze. Her $12,000 gown shimmered under the lights, a dress I had paid for, but her face was carved from ice. "Dad," her voice was sharp, clipped. "What are you doing here?" The words sliced deeper than any blade. I blinked, trying to process what I had just heard. "Sweetheart, it's your wedding day. I wanted to congratulate you both." "Oh." She stepped back, her heels scraping the polished floor. Her fiancé, Ryan, appeared at her side, his tuxedo crisp, his smile sharper than glass. He placed a hand possessively on Anna's arm. "Mr. Miller, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" My throat tightened. "I'm your father, Anna. Why would I misunderstand?" Around us, guests exchanged glances. Some women in silk gowns covered their mouths with champagne glasses, pretending not to listen. Others whispered openly, enjoying the drama unfolding before them. Anna's voice trembled, but not from love or joy, only embarrassment. "Dad, this is a private family celebration. Immediate family only." The words hit like a hammer. Immediate family? 28 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, school recitals, and whispered prayers at hospital bedsides, all erased with a single sentence. "I paid for this wedding, Anna," I said quietly, fighting to keep my composure. "Every flower, every plate, every light in this room, this dress you're wearing. Do you really mean to tell me I don't belong here?" Her gaze darted toward the crowd, then to Ryan, who leaned in and muttered something I couldn't hear. When she spoke again, her tone was colder. This isn't about money, it's about fitting in. You don't understand the kind of people who are here. And in that moment, I understood perfectly. The construction worker who built her life wasn't welcome at her party. The man who sacrificed his retirement, his comforts, his very soul to make her happy, had served his purpose. She had traded me for Ryan's polished world, and now I was nothing more than an embarrassment in work boots polished too many times. The room grew unbearably silent. I felt every eye on me, every whisper slicing across my back. A photographer lowered his camera. Even the string quartet faltered. I placed the gift box gently on a nearby table, next to untouched champagne flutes. "I wouldn't want to embarrass you," I whispered. "Dad, please," she said quickly, her eyes darting nervously across the ballroom. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at her, really looked. Her green eyes, once so full of innocence, now gleamed with shame. The same lips I used to kiss goodnight now trembled, but not with love. She turned slightly, away from me, as though disowning me in front of her new world. "You're right," I said at last, forcing the words through the lump in my throat. "I don't belong here." The walk to the exit felt like dragging chains across marble. Every step echoed in my ears, mingled with muffled laughter and gossip behind me. I saw a man in a $1,000 suit smirk as I passed. A woman leaned toward her companion and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "Must be the father." Their chuckles followed me like a funeral dirge. The gift I had prepared, a symbol of my love, sat abandoned on that table, as forgotten as the years I had spent raising her alone. When I reached the heavy doors, I turned back once. Anna was already looking elsewhere, clutching Ryan's arm as though erasing me from her story. In that moment, I felt something inside me break not just my heart, but the belief that sacrifice alone could buy love. Outside, the crisp spring air struck my face like cold water. My boots clicked against the pavement as I walked across a parking lot lined with luxury cars. Bentleys, BMWs, sleek Teslas. My old pickup truck waited alone in the farthest corner, exactly where it belonged in their world. I climbed inside, closed the door, and let the silence engulf me. My hands rested on the steering wheel, steady despite the storm inside me. I looked down at my phone, its screen glowing with a dozen missed calls from my lawyer about a pending property dispute. My thumb hovered over his number, but I scrolled past it. Instead, I found another contact one I hadn't used in months. First National Bank Business Services. My finger hovered for 3 seconds before pressing call. As the line connected, my eyes drifted back to the ballroom windows, glowing in the distance. Inside, Anna was laughing again, her gown trailing like a flag of victory. She thought she had won. She thought I would disappear quietly. But she was wrong. She had taken my love for granted. She had mistaken my sacrifice for weakness. And now, she would learn the truth. I may have been dismissed as an outsider, but I still held the very foundation of her so-called perfect world. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. And it was only just beginning. The cab of my truck smelled faintly of sawdust and coffee, the scents of a lifetime's work. My phone buzzed in my palm, the screen glowing with First National Bank Business Services. "First National, this is Patricia. How may I assist you today?" I cleared my throat, steadying my voice. "This is James Miller, account number 441973. I need to stop payment on several transactions." Her tone sharpened. "Can you verify your social security and mother's maiden name?" I rattled off the details as my eyes drifted back toward the ballroom windows, glowing like a palace on a hill. Inside, my daughter toasted her new life without me. Outside, I was rewriting the script. "What transactions would you like to stop?" Patricia asked. "All wedding related. Venue rental, catering, florist, music, photography, linen services, every single one." There was a pause, filled only by the sound of her typing. "Sir, these are significant amounts. Are you certain? Completely certain. Circumstances have changed. Her fingers tapped rapidly. I'll need authorization codes for amounts over 10,000. Not a problem. I recited them from memory, each number seared into me from decades of running contracts, payrolls, and construction bids. My employees had always joked I was a walking filing cabinet. Today, that memory was my sharpest blade. Stop payments confirmed, Patricia said after a moment. You'll receive confirmation numbers shortly. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, that'll be all. As I hung up, a strange calm washed over me. I wasn't shaking with rage. I wasn't consumed by grief. Instead, I felt purposeful. For 25 years, I had bent over backward to keep my daughter happy. Tonight, she would learn what it meant to stand without my shoulders beneath her feet. The next calls came quickly. Elegant Affairs Catering. Marcus speaking. Marcus, this is James Miller. I'm calling about the Miller-Anderson wedding. Yes, Mr. Miller. Everything's running beautifully. The guests love the hors d'oeuvre. I'm afraid payment authorization has been revoked. Bank stopped all charges. I suggest you protect your equipment and remaining food service. Silence. Then, Sir, we're mid-reception. The main course is about to be served. That's unfortunate timing. Speak with the wedding party for alternative payment. My role has ended. The line went dead after a stammered curse. I dialed again. Bellingham Blooms, Susan speaking. Payment authorization for the orchids has been canceled. You'll want to retrieve your property. But they're integrated into the altar and centerpieces, she protested. Business is business. Collect what you can. Her sigh of disbelief lingered long after the call ended. Photography, string quartet, line and rentals. Each conversation echoed the same pattern. Courtesy, then shock, then hurried action. By the time the last call ended, the dashboard clock read 4:15 p.m. I set the phone down and leaned back in the seat. Through the windshield, I watched as a white catering van pulled around the venue, brakes squealing. Staff hurried out, their polished smiles gone, replaced with grim determination. I imagined the scene inside, trays being whisked away mid-toast, orchids ripped from vases while guests muttered in confusion, music silenced as cords were unplugged. The perfect day, built on my back, was unraveling thread by thread. And the irony? I didn't raise my voice once. I didn't storm the ballroom or shame her in front of her friends. No, I simply withdrew the invisible foundation of her fantasy. Money is quiet until it leaves. Then it roars. My phone vibrated. A new voicemail. I didn't need to check who it was. I let it buzz, then settle. A minute later it buzzed again and again. I knew what she would say. Dad, something's wrong. Please fix this. Dad, you can't do this to me. But she had already done it to herself. I pictured Anna's face when the florist entered with empty containers, her panic when the caterer began covering serving stations, her humiliation as whispers rippled across the ballroom. Every guest would see the truth she'd tried to hide, that the man she cast aside was the one holding everything together. Still, I didn't gloat. This wasn't revenge. Revenge is fueled by hatred. What I felt was justice, cold, precise, undeniable. The storm clouds gathered above the venue's Gothic spires, their shadows stretching long across rows of imported cars. Guests, dressed in thousands of dollars worth of fabric, sipped nervously at champagne that wouldn't be refilled. The string quartet's last note hung in the air before silence claimed the hall. I rested my hands on the steering wheel, fingers steady. The hammer had fallen. Then came the ring. Her name flashed across my screen. Anna. For a long moment I just stared at it. The same name I had scribbled on permission slips. The same name printed across tuition bills. The same name whispered in bedtime prayers. The phone buzzed again. I let it ring out. Another call. Another voicemail. She was beginning to realize that dismissing me wasn't just cruel, it was foolish. She hadn't banished a man. She'd banished the very foundation of her life. Inside, panic would be spreading like fire in dry grass. Ryan shouting at vendors, guests murmuring in disapproval, Anna trembling, her perfect day collapsing around her. And me? I sat calmly in my truck, watching the storm roll in. The irony of it all struck me. For 25 years, she believed love meant indulgence, that my role was to provide endlessly without question. But love isn't blind sacrifice. Love has boundaries, or else it isn't love at all, it's slavery. As my phone buzzed again, I finally smiled. Not because I enjoyed her suffering, but because the lesson had begun. For the first time in her life, Anna was standing on her own 2 feet, and they were shaking. The next chapter was already writing itself. Inside the ballroom, while I sat in my truck dialing banks and vendors, the illusion still held. The chandeliers glowed like stars. Laughter and clinking glasses echoed off marble walls. From the outside windows, I could see Anna's gown shimmering as she moved gracefully between guests, her smile radiant. She believed she had solved her problem. By sending me away, she thought she had restored the perfection of her day. For a brief moment, she must have felt relief. No more embarrassment, no more whispers about the rough-handed man in polished work boots. In her mind, she had protected her new life, shielding Ryan's family from the shame of my presence. I imagine she even told herself, "Now everything will be fine." The quartet played on, their strings weaving a soft blanket of luxury. Guests sipped champagne, complimented the orchids, and admired the gleaming silver on each table. The catering staff circled with trays of appetizers, and I'm sure Anna thought she had survived the worst part of the evening. But relief built on lies never lasts. I leaned back in my truck seat, watching. At first, nothing seemed amiss. The music still played, the laughter still flowed. But then I noticed movement at the side entrance. Susan from Bellingham Blooms walking quickly with 2 assistants, plastic tubs in hand. They slipped inside, shoulders tense, their faces set with determination. Moments later, the first cracks appeared. I wasn't there to hear it, but I know the sound. Confusion. A guest's voice rising in surprise. A collective hush spreading across the tables. The music faltering as the florist's assistants began dismantling orchids from the altar. "Excuse me," I could almost hear Anna saying, her smile brittle. "We're in the middle of a reception. Whatever you need can wait until later." But Susan wasn't there for pleasantries. "Ma'am, I'm here to collect our arrangements. Payment authorization has been canceled." Relief shattered like glass on marble. Imagine it. A bride in pearls and silk, standing frozen as strangers carried away her flowers in front of 200 guests. Guests murmured, glances darting, whispers spreading faster than the music could cover. Ryan must have rushed over, face flushed with anger. "This is unacceptable. Get your manager on the phone." "I am the manager," Susan would have replied coolly, motioning to her team, "and our contract is void without payment. We're reclaiming our property." The music tried to continue, but the notes wavered as attention shifted to the spectacle. I saw the catering van pull up, Marcus stepping out with his crew, their faces grim. Relief turned to dread. Inside, Anna probably tried to laugh it off at first, assuring guests it was a small misunderstanding. But dread has a way of clawing its way into your voice. She must have felt it rising, a cold panic at the base of her throat. Then Marcus entered with his clipboard, staff at his side. "We're shutting down service," he likely announced. Payment authorization was revoked. Appetizers disappeared from trays. Serving stations were covered with cloths. Guests stared in disbelief. Forks paused halfway to their mouths. Someone's phone rang loudly in the silence, adding to the awkwardness. By now, Anna's relief had fully collapsed. In its place, humiliation. She had believed, for a fleeting hour, that she could control the narrative, that by dismissing me, she had secured her place in Ryan's world. But now, in front of his entire family, the opposite was true. Every vendor's retreat exposed her dependence on me. Every service removed revealed the truth she had hidden. Without me, she had nothing. I pictured her face as the string quartet set down their instruments and quietly unplugged equipment. One by one, the luxuries she had paraded as proof of her new life vanished. The guests she sought to impress now whispered about scandal. Her relief was gone. Her dignity was unraveling with every centerpiece carried out the door. And me? I sat in my truck, hands steady on the wheel, watching through the glass. I didn't storm in shouting. I didn't demand recognition. I let reality do the talking. For 25 years I had been the silent provider, the invisible backbone. Tonight, silence was my greatest weapon. When Anna had sent me away, she thought she had won. She thought she could build a world without me, one where I didn't belong. But the truth was undeniable. Her relief was an illusion, and illusions always break. When the last tray was carried out of the ballroom, I thought the lesson had been delivered. The flowers gone, the music silenced, the food covered with white cloths, it was enough to humble anyone. I imagined Anna standing there in her expensive gown, surrounded by whispers, her face burning with shame. That should have been the end. But spoiled pride doesn't bow easily. By Sunday afternoon, my phone began buzzing again, not with calls from Anna this time, but from colleagues and business partners. At first I didn't understand. Why was the president of the local contractors association calling me on a weekend? Why was my longtime supplier forwarding me a Facebook post with over 100 comments? Then I saw it. Anna had gone public. On her Facebook page, she posted a wedding photo, her standing in that $12,000 dress, Ryan's arm around her, both smiling for the camera. Beneath it, a story crafted to paint me as a villain. On the most important day of my life, she wrote, my father ruined everything. He stormed into my wedding uninvited, then cruelly canceled every vendor payment to punish me. He left me humiliated in front of my husband's family and friends. I never thought my own father could be so vindictive. Vindictive. The word burned. Her version of the story spread like wildfire. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years commented with outrage. Old neighbors shook their heads in sympathy for her. Ryan's family shared the post in their social circles, whispering about my instability and anger issues. By the next morning, local community groups were buzzing with half-truths and outright lies. Spokane businessman sabotages his own daughter's wedding. Father demands repayment after ruining event. Small business owner takes revenge on his child. Each headline twisted the knife deeper. By Monday, I received an email from the Spokane Business Journal. Polite language, but the meaning was sharp. We've heard troubling reports about family issues affecting your company. Would you like to comment? Family issues affecting my company. That was the strategy. If they couldn't shame me privately, they would smear me publicly. Ryan's connections ran deep. Country clubs, charity boards, social committees. He knew reputation in a city like ours was as valuable as money. And Anna had given him the weapon: her tears, her carefully chosen words, her performance as the innocent victim of a cruel father. For 3 days, the smear campaign grew. Calls came in from partners asking if everything was all right at home. My employees whispered about posts they had seen online. Even the Rotary Club president asked if I was well enough to handle upcoming community projects. Each question carried the sting of suspicion. It felt like standing on quicksand. Decades of hard work, of building a reputation as a steady, reliable man, now threatened by a handful of lies spread in the right places. And yet, beneath the frustration, I felt something else. Clarity. I realized Anna hadn't learned the lesson at all. The wedding collapse had humiliated her, yes, but instead of reflecting on her choices, she had chosen the path of deflection. She blamed me publicly, casting herself as the victim, and enlisted Ryan's family to amplify the lie. That was her second mistake. Because if Anna thought reputation was a game, she'd forgotten who had kept every receipt, every bank statement, every tuition bill neatly filed away. She had forgotten who built a business from the ground up, by documenting everything, by proving every number, by never leaving things to chance. I called Margaret Richards, my lawyer, that same evening. "It's time," I told her. She listened as I explained the smear campaign. They're trying to destroy my credibility, Margaret. They want to turn my sacrifice into a story of cruelty. I can't let that stand. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Mr. Miller, if they've gone public, so must you. Her words were like a spark in dry timber. The next day, I began preparing. I pulled out filing cabinets, spread documents across my desk. Private school tuition from Riverside Academy. Northwestern University tuition receipts, over $50,000 a year. Housing contracts, car payments, credit card bills, the 3 vehicles I'd bought her, the study abroad programs in Italy and Cancun, and now the wedding invoices. Every dollar spent, every sacrifice documented. While Anna spread half-truths on social media, I was preparing the full truth, cold, undeniable, backed by paper and ink. On Tuesday morning, I called the Spokane Business Journal. I'd like to provide a full account, I said. Complete transparency. 25 years of financial support documented. The reporter on the other end was silent for a moment, then said, If you can prove what you're saying, Mr. Miller, people will listen. Prove it? That was the one thing I had always been prepared to do. By Tuesday afternoon, Margaret and I had arranged a press conference. I called every business partner, every contractor, every colleague I had built trust with over decades. I told them to be ready, that the truth was coming. Anna had thought she could smear me into silence, but she had underestimated me. For 25 years I had been her shield, her provider, her silent supporter. Now I would be something else entirely, her mirror. And when she looked into it, she wouldn't see a cruel father. She would see herself and the cost of her entitlement. The smear campaign had escalated the conflict, but it had also escalated the stakes. This was no longer about one ruined wedding. This was about truth versus lies, sacrifice versus entitlement, justice versus manipulation, and I was ready for the fight. By Wednesday morning, I realized how deep the smear had cut. It started with an email from a longtime partner, Martinez Concrete. Bob had worked with me for nearly 20 years. He was the kind of man who shook your hand once and trusted it meant something. But his message was cautious, almost apologetic. James, it read, I've been hearing things around town, people saying you ruined your daughter's wedding and then demanded money back. I don't want to believe it, but you know how these things spread. City officials are asking questions about our joint bid. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was bleeding into my work, into the very livelihood I had built with my own 2 hands. The phone rang next. The president of the Rotary Club. His voice was smooth, careful. James, there's concern about whether you're in the right frame of mind to manage community projects. People are worried. Should we postpone your commitments? I wanted to shout, to slam my fist on the table and tell him I had receipts thicker than his accounting books. But shouting wouldn't fix anything. Anger would only confirm their suspicions. Still, the sting of it was unbearable. In a single weekend, decades of respect and trust were unraveling. At the construction site, whispers traveled faster than the machines. My foreman, Dave, pulled me aside, lowering his voice. Boss, the guys are talking. They saw the posts online. Some say you cut your daughter off cold on her wedding day. Is that true? I met his eyes. Honest eyes, calloused hands. A man who had stuck with me through recessions and storms. For the first time in years, I didn't know what to say. It's complicated, I muttered. And that was all. That night, sitting alone in my office, I scrolled through social media. Anna's post had ballooned to thousands of shares. Photos of her in her gown circulated with captions that painted me as a monster. How could any father do this? One commenter wrote. Another sneered. Money can't buy love, but this man thinks it can destroy it. Each line was a knife. I looked at my desk, the piles of receipts, tuition invoices, credit card payments, nearly $1 million spent over 25 years. Evidence of sacrifice, proof of love, and yet to the world, I was the villain. For the first time since this all began, I felt powerless. I poured myself a cup of coffee, but the steam only fogged my glasses as I stared blankly at the wall. My hands, the same hands that had built houses, poured foundations, and raised a daughter, trembled. Was this all for nothing? I thought of Anna as a little girl, her voice asking me to push her higher on the swings, her laughter ringing out against the summer air. I thought of her in pink pajamas, curled against me as I read bedtime stories. I thought of her graduation, her hug, the whispered, "I love you, Dad," that had once been so easy for her to say. When had it all turned? When had love become entitlement, gratitude become silence? And now she was tearing me down, brick by brick, the way only someone you've built up can. I rubbed my temples, exhaustion pressing on me like lead. For decades I had been strong, steady, the man others leaned on. But in that moment, I felt like an old, broken thing. The city doubted me. Partners questioned me. Employees whispered about me. My daughter hated me. All seemed lost. At 11 p.m., the phone buzzed again. It was a reporter this time, her tone brisk, professional. "Mr. Miller, we're running a piece on the Anderson wedding. Can you comment on accusations that you sabotaged the event?" Accusations. Sabotaged. Words heavy with guilt, with judgment. I swallowed hard and simply said, "No comment." Then I hung up, staring at my reflection in the dark window. For the first time in years, I didn't recognize the man staring back. I leaned back in my chair, the house silent around me. My wife's photo smiled gently from the bookshelf, her eyes kind and forgiving. I whispered into the empty room, "Sarah, what would you have done? Would you have let her walk all over us? Or would you have let it go, for love's sake?" Tears I hadn't shed in decades stung my eyes. I covered my face with my hands and sat there, trembling, the weight of 25 years crushing down on me. By Thursday morning, I wasn't sure I had the strength to fight anymore. The smear was winning. My daughter was winning. And I was losing everything: my reputation, my business, my peace. All seemed lost. Friday morning came with a cold clarity. I hadn't slept much. The smear campaign weighed heavy, and for a moment I almost believed the whispers that maybe I was cruel, maybe I had gone too far. But when I opened the drawers in my office and pulled out the files, the doubt vanished. For 25 years I had documented everything, every tuition bill, every receipt for braces, summer camps, cars, apartments. I didn't keep them because I thought I'd one day need proof. I kept them because it was my way of making sense of sacrifice. I organized every folder like a builder stacking bricks. Each one was a reminder that my hard work was building something, her future. Now those same folders became my hidden card. I spread them across the desk. One stack labeled education, another transportation, another housing. Each folder fat, straining with paper. I opened the first Riverside Academy. 12 years of tuition, starting at $8,000 a year, and climbing to nearly $12,000. The totals made me whistle under my breath. $126,000. That was just her childhood schooling. Next came Northwestern University. Tuition invoices, dorm contracts, study abroad receipts. 4 years, over $50,000 annually, plus another $15,000 for housing and extras, a semester in Italy, a spring break in Cancun. The numbers stacked higher and higher until I felt almost dizzy. $284,000. I pulled out the car folder. First the Honda Civic, $18,000. Then the BMW at $19,28,000. Then the luxury SUV at $25,042,000. Insurance, maintenance, registration. Another $75,000. Gone without a thought. Housing next. Her Chicago apartment, $2,800 a month. For 3 years. That alone added up to more than $100,000. Credit card payments, utilities, even her iPhone upgrades, all covered quietly, without complaint. And then came the wedding. My pen scratched across the invoices as I added the numbers. $12,000 for the dress. $40,000 for the venue, $30,000 for catering, thousands for orchids, for champagne, for the photographer. All told, $147,000. I grabbed my calculator, my fingers tapping quickly. Education, $410,000. Transportation, $75,000. Housing, $125,000. Personal expenses, $180,000. Wedding, $147,000. The total stared back at me. $937,000. Nearly $1 million. I sat back in my chair, staring at the number, letting it sink in. For 25 years, I had given Anna nearly $1 million. Not in loans, not in investments, but in sacrifice. And not once had she asked how much, or said thank you. That number was my hidden card. That number was the truth no smear campaign could erase. By noon, I was sitting in Margaret Richards' law office. The conference room smelled of polished wood and ink. Margaret spread the documents across the table, her silver hair catching the light. She scanned the totals with a practiced eye and nodded. "Mr. Miller, this is remarkable documentation. You've accounted for nearly every dollar. It's not just money," I said quietly. "It's 25 years of my life." She tapped her pen against the spreadsheet. "This gives us leverage. We can reclassify much of this support as loans rather than gifts. We can send a demand letter for repayment. At the very least, it establishes your narrative that you didn't ruin your daughter's life. You funded it." The word struck me hard. Funded. That's what I had done. I hadn't just been a father. I'd been a bank, a silent, tireless provider. "Draft the letter," I said. "Make it clear. 30 days to repay, or we pursue collection." Margaret's eyes softened for a moment. "James, are you sure? This isn't just legal. This is family." I clenched my jaw. Family ended when she told me I didn't belong at her wedding. By 3 p.m. the letter was ready on heavy paper, embossed with Richards and Associates' seal. It outlined the $937,000 total, broken into categories, with receipts attached. It demanded repayment in 30 days, or legal proceedings would begin. At 5 p.m., I received the call from the courier. Package delivered to the Grand Hotel. Signed by Emily Anderson. Emily Anna. My daughter. My betrayer. That night, my phone lit up like a siren. Call after call. Voicemail after voicemail. Her voice frantic, breaking. "Dad, what is this? $900,000? This can't be serious. You never said this was a loan. How could you do this to me? Michael's family is asking questions I can't answer. Please, Dad, we need to talk. This is destroying everything." I let the calls roll to voicemail. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to her panic. I was leading. The next morning, the Spokane Business Journal called again. "Mr. Miller, we've seen the documents your attorney provided. We'd like to feature your story. Parents across the community will relate." I leaned back in my chair, the sunlight streaming through the blinds. For the first time since the wedding, I felt the ground steady beneath me. The smear campaign had tried to bury me in lies. But the numbers didn't lie. The numbers matched. They told the story better than I ever could. That I wasn't cruel. I wasn't vindictive. I wasn't unstable. I was a father who had given everything, and the daughter who smeared me had lived nearly her entire life on money she never earned. My hidden card was finally revealed. This wasn't revenge, this was truth. And truth has a way of silencing even the loudest lies. When Margaret's courier delivered the repayment letter, I thought Anna would crumble under the weight of it, and in some ways, she did. Her frantic voicemails told me she was spiraling her marriage on shaky ground, her reputation shredded by the truth I'd laid bare. But what I didn't expect was who would call me next. Late Sunday afternoon, as I sat at my kitchen table with the financial files still spread out, my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made me blink twice. Linda Miller. My sister. Linda and I hadn't spoken much in years. Family disagreements, old resentments, It had all created a distance between us. She had always been closer to Anna, often spoiling her with gifts, telling me I was too strict. To me, Linda represented the chorus that whispered behind my back, saying I should give Anna everything she wanted because life had already taken her mother. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "James," she said when I picked up, her voice softer than I remembered. "I saw the news, the numbers, everything. I waited for the lecture, the condemnation. Instead, she sighed. I truly didn't know how much you'd carried." Her words caught me off guard. For decades I'd been painted as the stubborn father, the man who worked too much, the one who never let Anna just be young. And now here was my sister Anna's longtime defender admitting she'd been blind. "Linda," I said carefully, "I didn't want to make this public, but Anna and Ryan forced my hand." "I understand," she said quickly, "and I need you to know, I'm on your side now." I sat in silence, absorbing the twist. "Linda," my unexpected ally. She explained that after Anna posted her smear campaign, Linda had initially felt sympathy. She'd even commented supportively. But when my documentation went public, when the cold math showed nearly $1 million sacrificed, her sympathy shifted to disbelief. "I talked to Anna yesterday," Linda continued. "She begged me to help her pay. But when I asked how much she needed, she laughed nervously and said, 'Just 900,000. James, she thought I could just write a check.' I almost laughed myself, but it came out bitter. "That's Anna," expecting others to save her without understanding the weight of what she asks. Linda hesitated, then said, "I told her no. For the first time in my life, I told her no." Her voice trembled, but it carried conviction. "I told her she needed to face the consequences of how she's treated you. She screamed at me, called me cruel, said I was abandoning her. But James, she's not a child anymore, and you're not wrong." I felt something shift inside me. For years I had been isolated in my struggle, painted as the villain while Anna basked in approval. Now, for the first time, someone in the family saw the truth. Linda wasn't the only one. That evening, I received a message from Dave, my foreman. "Boss, the crew saw your press conference. Everyone's with you. We've all raised kids, and we know what sacrifice looks like. Don't let anyone tell you different." One by one, allies began to appear where I least expected them. Business partners who had once questioned me now sent words of support. Even the Rotary Club president called back, apologizing for doubting me. "Your documentation was powerful," he admitted. "It opened our eyes. We want you to speak at the next meeting about financial responsibility." Imagine that, from villain to teacher. But perhaps the most surprising ally came from within Ryan's own family. On Monday morning, my phone rang again. The voice on the other end was deep, authoritative Ryan's father. "Mr. Miller," he said, "I owe you an apology." I sat straighter in my chair, caught off guard. "For what exactly?" "For doubting you. For welcoming your daughter into our family without understanding the truth. We were led to believe she was self-made, disciplined, but your records show the opposite. You supported her entirely." He paused, his tone heavy. "Ryan should have known better. He should have respected you." I almost didn't know how to respond. This man, who once looked at me with thinly veiled disdain for being a small business owner, was now conceding respect. "I don't need your apology," I said quietly. "What I need is for your son to understand what partnership really means." There was a long silence. Then he said, "That may no longer be possible. Ryan has decided to separate from Anna. Our family's reputation is at risk. We cannot carry her debts." So the twist deepened. Not only had my hidden card revealed the truth, but it had caused cracks in her marriage that no money could patch. By Tuesday evening, Anna herself finally called again, not frantic this time, but broken. "Dad," she whispered when I answered, her voice stripped of arrogance. "I don't know where else to turn. Everyone's walking away. Aunt Linda, Michael's family, even my friends. Nobody will help me." For the first time, she wasn't demanding. She was confessing. I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. This was the turn I had waited for. Not her suffering, but her humility. At last, she was seeing what entitlement had cost her. "Anna," I said, my voice steady, "this isn't the end, but it is the beginning of a different life. If you want my help, it won't be the old kind. No blank checks, no rescue missions. You'll have to work. You'll have to prove you can stand on your own." Her silence told me she understood. For years I had carried the burden alone, painted as overbearing, harsh, unyielding. Now the twist of fate had given me unexpected allies. My sister, my employees, even Ryan's powerful father. And the turn in Anna's own heart, however fragile, gave me the first glimpse of hope. The storm wasn't over, but the winds had shifted. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. By midweek, the tide had turned completely. The smear campaign that Anna and Ryan launched had burned bright for 3 days, but like all lies, it couldn't survive the weight of truth. My press conference, my folders of receipts, the meticulous records of 25 years of sacrifice, all of it spread across the city like wildfire, only this time in my favor. The Spokane Business Journal ran a feature titled "The Price of Entitlement: One Father's $1 Million Sacrifice." They didn't need to add commentary. The numbers spoke louder than any opinion. Beneath the headline was a photo of me holding one of the binders, my hands rough from years of construction, my face lined with both exhaustion and resolve. The article listed the totals clearly: $410,000 in education, $75,000 in transportation, $125,000 in housing, $180, 0-inch personal expenses, $147,000 in wedding costs, nearly $1 million, documented, verified, undeniable. The community reacted swiftly. Comments flooded the online article. I spent 15 years working double shifts to put my daughter through community college. This man paid for private school, Northwestern, 3 cars, and a luxury wedding, and she told him he wasn't invited? Oh, I know James Miller. He's as steady as they come. If he says he spent nearly $1 million, believe him. The receipts don't lie. Entitlement destroys families. This should be required reading. Local television stations picked it up as a human interest story. Evening anchors spoke solemnly about the dangers of unchecked indulgence, about the fine line between love and enabling. Footage of me stacking folders on the conference room table played across living rooms all over Spokane. Suddenly, I wasn't a villain anymore. I was a symbol. Meanwhile, Anna's carefully crafted image collapsed in real time. Her Facebook post, once brimming with sympathy, became a graveyard of critical comments. Old friends unfriended her. Sorority sisters posted sarcastic remarks about princess lifestyles and BMWs at 19. Even distant relatives chimed in. "We had no idea Uncle James paid for everything. How could you treat him like that?" Her social circle, once so eager to attend her lavish parties, scattered. The same people who had clinked glasses at her wedding now whispered about her behind her back. And Ryan? He didn't last long. Within a week, I heard from Linda, my sister turned ally, that he had moved back into his parents' estate. The Anderson family released a cold, carefully worded statement to their peers. "Ryan and Anna are separating amicably. Differences in financial transparency made the union unsustainable." Amicably. That word made me laugh bitterly. They'd use my daughter like a decorative ornament until the scandal stained their reputation. Then they cast her aside with a single sentence. For the first time in her life, Anna stood alone. But the punishment didn't stop there. Vendors began contacting her directly. The florist sent a letter demanding compensation for the orchids she had tried to keep. The catering company filed a claim for breach of contract. The photographer refused to release the images without full payment. Bills stacked up like bricks around her, heavy and unrelenting. And then came the legal weight of my demand letter. Richards and Associates followed through with precision. Anna received an official notice. $937,000 owed in 30 days, or legal action would proceed. She called me that night, her voice hoarse from crying. "Dad, please, I can't do this. I don't have the money. Everyone hates me. Ryan left. His parents won't even speak to me. What do you want from me? Do you want me homeless?" Her words shook with fear, but for the first time I didn't feel manipulated. I felt the scales balancing. "Anna," I said firmly, "this isn't about punishment. It's about accountability. For 25 years I gave without limits, and you dismissed me. You smeared me. You lied about me to the world. Now the truth is out, and the truth has consequences." "I know," she sobbed. "I know I was wrong. But why make it so public? Why destroy me like this?" "Destroy you?" My voice hardened. "I didn't destroy you, Anna. I built you. Every dollar, every sacrifice that was me. You destroyed yourself when you told me I didn't belong at the very wedding I paid for." Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, shallow and ragged. Finally, she whispered, "So this is it? You're just going to watch me fall?" I closed my eyes. The father in me ached. The businessman in me stood resolute. "You're already falling, Anna. I'm here to make sure you land on your feet. But you'll have to do the climbing yourself from now on." By the following week, the community had chosen sides, and it wasn't hers. The Rotary Club invited me to speak on financial responsibility. Contractors publicly praised my integrity. Even the mayor's office issued a statement about the importance of transparency in family and business matters. Meanwhile, Anna couldn't show her face without whispers trailing behind her. At the grocery store, old neighbors glanced away. At the coffee shop, baristas who once greeted her warmly now gave curt nods. Reputation, once her shield, had become her cage. That was karma in its truest form. Not fire and brimstone, not revenge plotted in shadows. Karma was the mirror, showing her what she had become, stripping away the illusions until only the truth remained. And the truth was simple. She had been given everything, and she had given nothing in return. The punishment wasn't just the bills, the separation, or the public shame. The real punishment was the isolation, realizing that when the money dried up, so did the applause. For the first time in 28 years, Anna was forced to face herself. And as much as it hurt to admit, that was exactly what she needed. The storm eventually passed, but not without leaving ruins in its wake. By the end of the month, Anna's world looked nothing like the glossy ballroom where she once stood in pearls, dismissing me as though I were a stranger. Ryan was gone, his family severing ties as cleanly as a lawyer's cut. Her friends had vanished too, scattering like leaves in the wind. The vendors hounded her for unpaid balances, and the hotel where she stayed demanded immediate payment or eviction. And me? I was still standing. My reputation had been tested, scarred, but not destroyed. In fact, in some ways it was stronger than ever. Business partners who had doubted me now admired me for standing firm. My crew rallied behind me, proud to work for a man who didn't bow to manipulation. Even the mayor's office invited me to sit on a committee about financial literacy in schools. But the victory wasn't sweet. It was somber, like standing on a battlefield after the noise fades, surveying what's left behind. Anna finally called me again on a quiet Thursday evening. This time her voice was different. No entitlement, no demands, just weariness. "Dad," she whispered, "I got a job." The words hung in the air, heavier than they should have been. For most 28-year-olds, getting a job is ordinary. For Anna, it was extraordinary because for the first time in her life she had earned something on her own. "What kind of job?" I asked, cautious. "Receptionist. At a small insurance office downtown. It doesn't pay much, but it's mine." I filled out the application myself. Went to the interview. They called me yesterday. There was a pause, and then, "Dad, I was terrified. I didn't even know how to fill out some of the forms. But the manager was kind. She said everyone has a first day." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the familiar binders of receipts stacked neatly in the corner. For 25 years I had filled out every form, signed every check, carried every burden. Now, finally, Anna was beginning to pick up her own pen. "That's good, Anna," I said quietly. "That's very good." She hesitated, then asked, "Do you respect me a little more now?" The question pierced deeper than I expected. Respect, that was what she wanted now. Not money, not gifts, not bailouts. Respect. "I respect that you're trying," I said. "And if you keep trying, you'll earn more than my respect. You'll earn your own self-respect. That's the one thing I could never give you, Anna. You had to find it yourself." She sniffled softly. "Dad, I don't know if I can fix everything. I don't know if I can ever make up for what I did." "You can't erase the past," I told her. "Neither can I. But you can build something new, brick by brick, like I built my business. It won't be fast, and it won't be easy, but it will be real, and real is better than perfect." The line went quiet except for her breathing. Then she whispered, "Thank you for giving me one more chance." In the weeks that followed, I kept my promise. I didn't rescue her, but I didn't abandon her either. I transferred just enough money for her first week of groceries. I made her swear not to ask for more, and she didn't. Every Sunday she called not as a dependent, but as a daughter trying to rebuild. She told me about the coworkers who showed her how to use the office printer, about the first paycheck she held in trembling hands, about the pride she felt when she paid her own phone bill. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. For me, life also shifted. My mornings felt lighter. Without constant demands draining me, I found time to walk through job sites with a clear head, to laugh with my crew, to sit quietly in the evenings without dread of the next "Dad, I need money" call. One Saturday, I even dusted off an old guitar, the one I hadn't touched since my wife passed. The chords were rusty, my fingers stiff, but the sound filled the house with something it hadn't had in years: peace. The community, too, began to treat me differently. At the hardware store, strangers approached to shake my hand. "You're the man who stood up to entitlement," one said. At church, people nodded respectfully, no longer pitying me as a widower raising a spoiled daughter, but admiring me as a father who had finally drawn the line. But the greatest resolution came not from the public, not from my business, but from Anna herself. One evening, months after the wedding disaster, she came to my house unannounced. She wasn't wearing designer clothes, just a simple blouse and jeans. Her hair was pulled back, her face free of makeup. She looked human again. In her hands she carried a small box. "I brought something," she said softly. I opened it and found a necklace, the very one I had left in that silver-wrapped box at her wedding, the one she never opened because she had sent me away. "I found it in the hotel room after everything fell apart," she admitted. "I didn't want to look at it then, but now I think I'm ready." She placed it gently on the table. "Dad, I know I can't undo the things I said, or how I humiliated you. But if you'll let me, I want to start again, as your daughter, not your dependent. Not your shame, just your daughter." I felt my throat tighten. For the first time in years, I saw not the entitled woman molded by Ryan's world, but the little girl who once curled up in my lap, whispering, "One more story, Daddy." "Anna," I said, my voice thick, "you'll always be my daughter, and starting again, that's exactly what we both need." We sat together in silence, the necklace glinting between us, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a symbol of something new, a new life. Not perfect, not easy, but real. When I look back now, it feels almost unreal. One moment I was walking into my daughter's wedding with a gift in my hands and hope in my heart. The next I was standing in the parking lot, cast out like an intruder. I thought the humiliation of that moment would break me forever. But in truth it was the breaking point that saved me. For 25 years I confused love with sacrifice. I thought if I gave more money, more time, more of myself, then Anna would love me more in return. I believed gratitude was automatic, that respect was the natural reward for selflessness. But I was wrong. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's servitude. And servitude breeds entitlement. I realize now that every time I said yes to another demand, every time I dipped into my savings to cover her newest whim, I was building a prison with my own hands. A prison where my daughter believed she deserved everything, and I deserved nothing, not even a seat at her wedding. It took losing everything in one day for me to finally see the truth. When Anna told me, "You don't belong here," I thought she had cut me out of her life. In reality, she revealed what I had allowed to grow for years, a relationship built not on love, but on transaction. She wasn't rejecting me as a father in that moment. She was rejecting the illusion that I could buy her love forever. And perhaps, in the cruelest way possible, she gave me the greatest gift of all, the chance to stop. The journey since then hasn't been easy. Watching my daughter fall apart was harder than I can explain. Hearing her beg, seeing her reputation collapse, knowing she was abandoned by the very people she once chose over me, those moments tore at the father in me. But I couldn't rescue her this time, because rescuing her would have meant destroying her again. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes, justice is about letting people taste the weight of their choices. The truth is, karma didn't come from me. Karma came from the life Anna had built on my shoulders. The moment those shoulders stepped away, the whole structure collapsed. That was never revenge. That was just gravity. Now, months later, I see change in her eyes. She works at an ordinary job, earning an ordinary paycheck. She pays for her own groceries. She calls me not to ask for money, but to tell me about her day. Sometimes she asks for advice, not cash. And in those small, fragile moments, I feel something stronger than pride. I feel hope. Hope that maybe, after 28 years, she will finally learn the lesson her mother would have wanted her to know, that love is not measured in dollars, but in respect. That gratitude is not weakness, but strength. That being an adult doesn't mean having more. It means standing on your own 2 feet, no matter how shaky they feel. As for me, I've learned something too. I've learned that boundaries are not cruelty. They are love in its truest form. Because without boundaries, you don't raise children, you raise dependents. Without boundaries, you don't build families, you build cages. I'm not the same man I was the day I walked into that ballroom. I'm no longer the invisible provider, the silent ATM machine. I am a father who finally found his voice. And that voice says, love deserves respect. Sacrifice deserves gratitude. And every parent deserves a place at the table of the life they built. When I think about the necklace I left on that wedding table, the gift she never opened, I don't feel bitterness anymore. That necklace is still waiting, not as a reward for entitlement, but as a symbol for the day she truly earns it. And maybe, someday, when she looks me in the eye with gratitude instead of expectation, I'll place it in her hands at last. Until then, I'll keep building not with money, but with truth, not with silence, but with boundaries, because that is the legacy worth leaving. So I ask you, the listener, the same question I ask myself every night. What's the real measure of love? Is it how much you give without limit, or is it having the courage to finally say, enough?